Hey guys, how are you? Welcome to my channel, Spiritual Dowsy. I'm Dowsy LeMay. I hope all you beautiful souls out there are doing okay wherever you are in the world. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to watch my videos, and hopefully they resonate with you. But I always say if they don't, please use your own discernment, take what resonates with you and leave the rest. In my January energy update, I want to re-emphasize the phrase that I had, that hope is just over the horizon. All right, we have to have faith and we have to have trust that what we are desiring, a time period of peace, joy, rejuvenation, replenishment, that aspect, that energy is just over the horizon, and for us not to get so sucked into the negativity of what is currently abound all over the place. And to me, it feels like it's a time period of which I will reiterate over the last year or so. It feels like we have been going through a very birthing type of process. Something is being born here. And what it feels like, it's almost like that a new way of being is being born, and that comes through a lot of labor pains, right? And so what we're finding right now is that we're going through a great shaking of our reality, that's individually and collectively, and that great shaking, if you will, is shaking out all the things that we don't like to see about ourselves. We don't like to see about our society. We don't like to see things about our reality, right? And that is the energy of which I had talked about regarding 2021. It's a shaking through shifting and changes associated with our reality that confronts us with the things that no longer vibrate and align with us from a magnetic standpoint, right? It no longer aligns with us, and therefore the things that have been hidden, the things that have been allowed to run rampant, comes up to the surface. Now think about us individually. What has transpired over the last year or two for you that through all the changes and shifts that you've had to confront personally, right? Maybe that has to do with family things. Maybe that has to do with individual traumas. Maybe that has to do with your fears or your expectations or old emotional repressed things that you've held on to that you were confronted via the catalyst of your own external experiences being mirrored back to you. That is basically happening as well to the collective. What is transpiring is a great shaking that is causing us to be confronted with things that we don't necessarily like about our society, things that have been hidden, things that are being brought up to the forefront for us to integrate. It must be so. We must be able to see that if we desire to change things and to move forward. So through this process, which feels like the birthing process, something is being born at the moment, and I want you to think about that as well individually as we continue to move through 2021. Just because we have something that occurred on the 20th, a new inauguration of the President Biden, doesn't necessarily mean things are getting better. I told you that 2021 is a big shifting year, and things don't happen in an event. It is a process that gets drawn out because a lot of us have to go through the healing process individually before we can get into a space of a state of being that is aligned with more love, passion, joy, abundance, etc. So, energetically, what I can say, it feels to me like there's two presidents at the moment, right? One, we have the current president sitting, Joe Biden, and then what we've had is the exiting president of Donald Trump. And it feels energetically like there's two different presidents. Not to say from a legal standpoint there may be a president here, but the exiting president certainly has a devoted following as well. And so what I can say is that the collective is in a split right now. There is a split of allegiance. There's a split of emotional, energetic attachment. One for one president and one for the other president. So it feels, that's why I say it feels like there's two different presidents happening that are occurring at the same time, right? The thing that is stuck in the back of my head, and I just can't seem to figure this out and why this would happen, is that in past presidencies, there is what you call like the nuclear football, right? It is basically the codes or the equipment needed that the military or the president passes over to the next president. What I can't understand is that this inauguration was completely different than any other inauguration that we've had in the past. And one of which was that this nuclear football was supposed to be passed to the next president. And it wasn't. And so what they're saying is right now is that there's 2 nuclear codes that are sitting out there. That doesn't sit 100% with me, because why would the military allow for 2 sets of codes to be outside of their protection? One within DC and with the president, and then the other one with Donald Trump, with wherever he is, without the military protection. It doesn't make any sense to me. That seems like a huge liability, a huge risk, and a huge danger to have 2 sets of codes out, one of which being inside DC, protected by the Pentagon and the military, and then the one off where personally off with Donald Trump doing whatever with his few guards, right? That doesn't sit well with me. So that just sits as a dichotomy to me, and it makes me wonder where the allegiance is with the military with that, is who has the correct codes, and why would the military allow that to be to occur? You would think that if it was the military, you would want to have one set of codes to make sure that no one has the ability to get them and access to them. And to me, that just seems a very odd little place to be. So what I continue to say is that this feels like a mimicking and a mirroring of that bifurcation that I had talked about in previous videos. It feels like the world is kind of splitting. And I had a conversation with a friend of mine that talked about how they felt like what they're experiencing and what they feel reality is happening is like it's a cell, right? You think about a normal cell in your body, and the cell is going to multiply. And what it's doing right now, it's kind of indenting, and then it's splitting within itself, and it's going to become 2 different cells. That to me feels energetically what is transpiring at the moment. It feels like there is a splitting of realities. There's a splitting of the energetic, magnetic type of frequencies that are occurring, and it's almost like another way of looking at this is like you can imagine that there was two sets of train tracks, and those 2 sets of train tracks have been side by side, running along with each other, and the views of that train track was very similar. So it was hard to determine which train or track that you were on, because the views were very similar. It feels like it's happening is that it's starting to diverge, and the train tracks right now are really, really heading in 2 different tracks. One is having vastly different views than the other, and it all depends. It's all dependent on where you're holding yourself vibrationally. So if you're holding yourself vibrationally in one particular, and let's say from a linear perspective that this is a lower vibration, you're going to experience whatever reality that energetic collective consciousness agreement is going on that track. And if you hold yourself in a higher vibrational experience, your perspective on what's happening is going to see a vastly different view than those that are holding on to a different energy. So what we're getting is like a splitting of realities that are occurring, and there are people with different perspectives, different vibrations, experiencing different realities at the moment. And that to me is what is mirroring back to us in the collective. There's many different realities, but primarily there's 2 bifurcations that are happening. And it's going to be interesting to see what that is. It's going to be interesting to see what that means to us, especially feeling like there's energetically like 2 different presidents at the moment. So I hope that kind of maybe brings insight into why you're seeing such different discords or disconnect between different groups, and why the information is so different. And it's easy to go from one train to the next, and you can see how based on what you are holding on to, you are seeding the next moment as you go forward on that train or the other train. and the views are vastly different now as we move along. So what I can say is regarding the energetics around this particular event that we've had, it feels like for one set of group or the other set of group, whatever it is, it feels like the idea is that there is a hijacking occurring over your emotional body, right? There is like this greed and discontent, and there's like this rat that's sitting over this whole thing, right? The idea of a rat is being someone who is sneaky, and you think if they're a rat, that they're greedy, or that they're not truthful, or something is happening where they're hijacking, and especially for many of us regarding our emotional body, because many of us are dealing with unhealed emotional traumas or energetics that we haven't dealt with emotionally. We are easily hijacked into certain agendas. So this whole idea of your emotional body being hijacked for a use or an agenda that isn't for your highest good it certainly feels like that's why there is two different presidents, this feeling of two different presidents at the current moment. And what is really being called to you at the moment is that you're really going to need to utilize your divine feminine energy and divine masculine energy in a balanced approach. You really have to step back and have a balanced way of looking at things and having a sharp perception of what the world is providing to you, because because what it could be is many different illusions, many different tracks, and based on the way you hold yourself and the way you perceive things and the energetics and how you observe things and how you put your mental body into it, you could be inadvertently riding one train that may not be for your highest good. You need to have a fair and analytical mind that is in balance with your emotional body, right? You have to bring your emotional body in balance. Otherwise, you're going to get easily hijacked into whatever news outlet or what people say or whatever things that are out there. It has to become through the balance of your divine feminine, your divine masculine energy, the balance of your emotional and your balance of your mental, to have a sharp perception of what is occurring and to be able to find the truth for yourself. So what happens through this whole process, and what we're seeing is whole swath of people who are falling into a time of sorrow, into despair, and hanging their heads and getting sucked into the negativity of what is being transpired. The news and everything out there is trying to get you to be sucked into certain things, and it's drawing you down into a negative. I talked about in my other videos is that I've been seeing the number 144. What that means is for us to step up our energetics, to hold a higher vibration, we need to surround ourselves with higher vibrational outputs, things that raise our spirits to keep us outside of these different low vibrational things, so we don't ride a train that is inadvertently not for our highest good, because we are emotionally hijacked by whatever is being played out. Okay? So be extremely mindful about yourself. Understand that the hope is just around the corner. Hope is over the horizon, and it's there, and we need to have faith, and we need to be trusting and be resilient in that idea that there are better times coming and the world is getting better, right? It just doesn't happen right off the bat. It's going to take some time, and so we're going to continue to see a lot of different shifts, continue to see a lot of different things being unveiled and move forward. And right now, that splitting of the world is what I keep seeing and keep feeling, and I don't know whether or not that resonates with any of you guys, but hopefully that all makes sense and that rambling was coherent in some level. So I love you. Wherever you guys are, feel free to reach out to me. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.